Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're looking at this, which is the High Impact from Tops Knives. As you can see, this is a large hatchet, or maybe a smaller axe. Definitely a big, beefy chopping tool, 0.38 inches for your thickness, full tang there. You got this brownish tan micarta. Yeah, impressive piece of work here. So I've checked out in the past the Hammer Hawk, which is probably, about up to here. Definitely more of like a overbuilt tomahawk. This thing is definitely a two-handed chopping tool. Give you a look there at the head of the High Impact, at that black traction coating. Let me give you some of the details here. I'll give you some initial thoughts, then we're gonna put this thing to use. All right, so 20 inches from end to end, 5.75 inches for your cutting edge, your blade there, 0.38 inches for your thickness, 1075 high carbon steel, and it is the Rockwell hardness 56 to 58. Like I said, we do have this, I would call it tan canvas micarta. Got a kind of a brown tinge to it, but we have two large lanyard holes there. They had a couple different versions of this because they were trying to do one that wasn't full tang to cut out the weight, but it just wasn't, for the way it was going to be used, just wasn't strong enough, and so they had to make it a full tang item, which you can see. So you got your cutting edge there. Obviously you can choke your hand up like this, and then you can use the back for hammering, smashing, things like that. It says Idaho there on that side, Tops High Impact on that side. Here's a quick look at your mask. Leather, 2 snaps there. There's the back. Nice that the snaps are actually metal. Sometimes they use plastic, not these guys, but some companies use plastic. So that's nice and solid, locking in there. Let me offer you some thoughts on this thing real quick as I'll roll in some more footage here for you to look at. First thing I'll say is that when I saw this at SHOT Show, probably like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it jumped out to me as like the largest axe / hatchet chopping tool that I've ever seen these guys make as far as the overall length. They've got lots of choppers, but this is definitely the most axe-like that I've seen, so I wanted to check it out. Second thing, I thought, based on what I know about Tops, they're not going to make it, some puny little lightweight thing. They have to use it for a little bit, it's going to snap or bend. So they kept working it until they had it working the way they wanted it to and looking the way they wanted it to, and basically as strong as it is now. Now the other thing I'll say is I see this as a multi-use tool. I've got one of those Grossman panels in the back of my passenger seat in my car, and I've got some gear there. I think this could be the type of tool you keep in your trunk, you keep under one of your seats in the car. I would keep it secured so it's not moving around. But anyhow, yeah, so it's like, okay, I gotta get out there and bust up some ice. There's a tree in the road I gotta chop up. Oh, I'm out hanging out with some friends, I gotta chop up some wood to make a campfire. That type of multi-use tool. I don't see this as something that's gonna okay, I'm gonna throw this on my backpack just for camping so I can chop up some wood at night to make a campfire. I think there's a lot of uses to this type of thing. Now some people love a chopping tool, some people love a hatchet, some people love an axe. One of my favorite all-time choppers is the Elchete from Tops. This has a little bit more, it's gonna give you a different type of functionality, I should say, in that you get 2 hands on it and you can really swing this thing with 2 hands. You gotta be careful when you're doing that, obviously, but that's gonna give you more force coming down as opposed to just 1 hand with the Elchete. The advantage of the Elchete is the length of your blade, it gives you a little bit more leniency as far as when you're chopping something. You don't just have a 6-inch blade, let's say, you've got probably like a 10-inch blade for that thing. So, but yeah, as soon as I saw this thing, I said to them, I want to check it out. They sent it along for a review. So with that said, let's put this thing through the paces and see what we think about it. All right, we're gonna process some small pieces of wood, maybe 2/3 of an inch across. The weight of this definitely does some serious work there. You can just feel it kind of fall out of your hand to hit the wood and chop it. All right, we'll split some larger pieces here. This is probably, I would say, a little over 2 inches, maybe 2.5 inches across. So we're trying to split this guy. Well, that busted in half quite easily. Let's break it this way. Oh, got a knot there. We're going to split it still. Yep, move that up. A little feather sticking with this guy. Yeah. Tough to feather stick when mosquitoes are buzzing in your ears. But you can see we're definitely getting some little feathers here. Not tiny, but feathers nonetheless. There's a little something something as far as feathers. There you go. So you guys can probably see this thing, man, this thing comes really nice and sharp. Very impressed with it. And I'm choking up like here on the handle to do some of these more kind of controlled cuts. Not really aggressively swinging it, just to make a tent stake here. There's a quick look at that. Now one of the things about the back of this is obviously it's very thin compared to, you know, maybe your standard axe or your hatchet. So you could definitely still drive a tent stake in or something. Obviously this is about 1 inch across, so it makes it a little bit easier. But you can see, still does the job. But you can see that definitely can be used in that way. Can't think of a real reason why you need to break up bricks like this, but maybe you have one, and let's just see how this thing holds up against a brick. So that works quite easy, as you can see. Yep. Got a big old chunk of pressure treated wood here, and really for no other purpose than just to keep putting this thing to the paces. We're going to try to see if we can chop this thing up a little bit. Just to make it challenging, I'm not going to go horizontally or vertically. I'm going to go at like 45 degrees just to see how that works. Put a little more of a challenge before the high impact. Here we go. It's damp. There you go. Broke that piece off. There's a huge knot in this thing here. There we go. Pressure treated, defeated. Alright guys, so you've seen it in use. Let's talk about the high impact from tops. So this is the full breakdown now. I'm going to give you from basically this end to the chopping end and what I think about this tool. So first off, let's talk about weight. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things people notice when they get this. Like I said, I can see this as a tool you bring to camp or that you put in the back of your car and, you know, have it as an emergency tool, or if you're doing car camping, something like that. Because of the weight, I think people carrying this on their backpack way out into the woods or for long distances, not so much. If you're going out to the woods maybe a mile or two and you're going to use this thing a lot for some bushcrafting, survival skills, that type of stuff, processing a ton of wood, then I don't think the weight will be a huge deal. But I think that's the first thing people will notice. The next thing is that overall it's been a really good chopper considering its size. You know, I'm talking about another, I don't know what, 6-8 inches maybe for like a larger, maybe not that long, but definitely a longer handle for like your full size axe that you're gonna do a ton of chopping with. But this thing is compact, but like the name says, high impact. I don't use a lanyard for this size chopping tool. I just don't find it useful, but you do have the option to run, you know, basically there's lots of different ways with 2 holes that you can set up your lanyard system. So that's one thing. The next thing I'll tell you about is the handle. You can see this contour so it starts up, drops down, goes back up. For two-handed chopping, that is awesome. And I was surprised because I thought, you know, just a straight handle would be better. But the way this hand locks in and then your next hand just naturally falls here, you've got really good control when you're chopping with 2 hands. You need to be careful because of the length, right? So the cutting edge, the cutting portion of the high impact is not super far away from your hands, and so it's not like you're swinging really far out. So, you know, where your hands are to where the cutting edge is, not a ton of distance. Just got to be careful so you don't miss, swing and hit yourself in the leg, hit somebody else. So be very careful. Proper chopping stance, you know, be careful there's no one around you. All that said, two-hand chopping, definitely you can lock in nicely. One hand, this is kind of the natural position for me if I'm doing some chopping, like, you know, on a log right in front of me, put a piece of wood down, boom, like that. In general, I was using two hands, I would say. Not doing a ton with it down here because of the weight. It is going to be top heavy, especially if you're holding it all the way down on this end. So two hands in general, really nice lock in for that. I mentioned this before, but the fact that it's full tang, I mean, this thing is going to be super solid. You can see a little bit of the residue from the brick shattering there. You do have a couple different cutouts here. This one may have a purpose, the second one, but to me it's like this is the main one that's going to be useful as far as allowing me to choke up, to do some chop or some push cut, things like that, maybe for some feather sticks or something. The strength of this thing is also that because it is full tang and because you've got basically the metal of the head going down into the handle, you could put this thing on a piece of wood, excuse me, and then baton through it, and it's gonna do that quite well. You could put this on a piece of wood that you want to baton across the wood as opposed to down along the grain, and you know, hit on the back of that, and it's gonna do just fine with that, no issues. For me personally, I prefer not a rounded edge for your edge on an axe. I prefer something that's flat, but this one, I mean, it worked great. No issues whatsoever. Can you know, chop down a ton of trees with it? I guess you could. This is not the type of tool I'll be using to do that, but if you want to use this to process a bunch of wood around camp, I think this could definitely serve nicely in that way. Could you use this instead of the Tops Alchete? You could. I think, you know, the functionality is going to be a little bit different. For me, the Alchete is probably in the top, like maybe 3, maybe top 2 of the all-time tools that I've used from Tops. So that being said, yeah, I mean, it's going to function differently because this is going to give you more of that real, you know, chopping power like you would from an axe or an oversized hatchet. Whereas the Alchete, the advantage of that is the length of the blade, and so you can baton through things that are wide. You can also chop without having to hit, you know, in this 5-inch area, you've got like a 9 or 10-inch area for the Alchete. The overall look, I think, is great. Let me show you the sheath here real quick. One thing about the sheath is just make sure the Tops logo is pointing up, and then you'll put the sheath on properly. So slide this in, snap it down. Officially, it's called a mask for an axe or a hatchet like this. It's really nicely made. Color is a little bit different. This darker brown versus kind of a orangish, tannish, orangish brown over here. But I think it looks cool. They could give you the option to, like, you know, one of the loops that you could like throw this onto a belt. But I just don't see anybody carrying this on your belt. It's gonna pull your pants down. It's too heavy. So strap this to a pack, put it inside, you know, run it along the inside of a pack with the mask on, and you should be good to go. For me, when I think about this, one of the first things that comes to mind is this compared to the Hammer Hawk. And the Hammer Hawk is probably, you know, comes up to about here. So you're getting maybe an extra 6 or 8 inches with this thing. Look what I just did. You see that? Just nicked my thumb a little bit with the 2 edges here at the top or the bottom. One of those 2 hit me. I give myself a tiny little cut. Anyhow, Hammer Hawk is more compact. It does feel quite hefty. I think if you're going to carry the Hammer Hawk out into the woods or this, I would choose this because based on the size, you're going to get even more chopping power, and the difference in weight is not going to be that much. Obviously, as we're seeing here, be careful with the you know, the edges right there where when I was putting the mask on, I bumped my hand. So just be careful of that. But functionally, this thing has worked awesome. It's a powerful chopping tool. I could definitely see it headed out into the woods for a mile or 2, or like I said, in your car, put it on your gray man gear. What do they call it? Like the molly panels for the back of your passenger seat. So you've got an emergency tool. I actually was on a dirt road here and a tree had fallen across it, and I had a CRKT, what do you call it? Tomahawk, which was, it was chopping. I was cutting through it, but you know, your blade is like this as opposed to it being like this, plus more weight. I could have definitely processed through that thing more quickly to get the tree out of the way if I had the high impact. All right, price point for this on the Tops website, it's listed at $360, but you can pick it up on Amazon for $290, $289, and some change, I believe it is. Definitely like a lifelong investment. You know, you're paying almost $300. It's gonna have to it's got to prove itself for a long time. I'm confident it will. I mean, Tops makes great products. They stand behind their products. So if you want something, you're going to do a ton of processing out in your, your backwoods, or maybe at your bushcraft camp, which is where I'm at right now. Either way, it's an investment, but I think it's going to be a good long-term product. It's got to fit into your systems, though. You know, if you're somebody who's like, I'm a lightweight backpacker, a lightweight hiker, and I want a very small, compact, lightweight chopping tool, don't go with this. That's not what it's built for. The Yukon Hawk reminds me of this, except straighter handle, and it's definitely lighter, and a thinner profile to the blade overall, to just the head of the axe, the whole thing overall. This is definitely something that's going to be more effective in doing some heavy chopping or cutting. But I like it. I'm definitely going to use this at our bushcraft camp. Not something I'll take on backpacking adventures unless I'm doing a ton of processing out in the woods, which I don't think I would be. But yeah, so let's hear your thoughts on it. The Tops High Impact. Let me take the mask off here again so you can see it, this time without cutting myself. Tops High Impact. What do you like about it? What would you change? Overall thoughts on it? Just general reflections. Let's hear your thoughts and your comments on this. Links below in the description section if you want to pick this up on Tops or on the Amazon website as well. And let's get your thoughts and your feedback in the comment section and start that conversation now. Thanks as always for checking out the videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, Tumblr, and Vero as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.